Hi, everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about the SB12. It is a Texas legislature that is going to be banning DEI in classrooms. And DEI is the diversity, equity, and inclusion that a lot of us have used this year in our classrooms, our student teaching. I'll be discussing why it matters, some of the changes that will affect education and parental rights. So the Texas Senate has now passed this bill into law. It was passed by the Senate, and then it went on to Governor Greg Abbott, and he passed the bill into law. So the bill is going to affect K through 12 and also higher education, anything that's publicly funded in the state of Texas. So that means any school that is not privately funded or federally funded, I believe. So it's only going to affect the schools that are publicly funded. So it could be private schools as long as they're publicly funded, use public funds for those schools. So the DEI bans basically is taking away DEI. So there's not going to be, you're not legally allowed any longer as a teacher or as anybody in that school system, an administrator or anything, to talk about diversity, equity, or inclusion. So no talks about racism or race, no history of race. So you can't share stories or lessons or textbooks that have anything to do with indigenous people, anything to do with Black history, anything to do with Latin America, right? Or any cultures whatsoever. Basically, we are basically banning a lot of historical content in the curriculum now. They're also banning any usage of the he, she pronouns, he, she, them, anything like that has to do with gay pride or anything in that way. So LGBTQ community, that is banned. Anything that has to do with any of those topics that I just mentioned. So if they have any clubs or anything like that, they could be sued by a parent, or a parent could file a lawsuit saying that they don't believe that they are following with the DEI ban. And those parents could file a complaint. And if the board decides that the complaint is valid, then that teacher or the staff member involved in that situation could be facing expulsion. Now, there is a process that they can go through to file a grievance saying that they think that they were wrongly accused. But basically, it's taking away a lot of our rights. And so they're using it, pushing it as like, well, it's giving parents more control over their kids' curriculum and more control over their rights in schools. But it's also taking away a lot of rights of people of color or people from any diverse population, right? And so it also has to do with hiring and things like that in the Texas school system. So teachers are going to have to be a lot more critical about what they're saying. Basically, they're going to have to be filtering themselves. They don't want to take a misstep and say something. So this is going to cause a lot of fear in people in the school systems, because if they say the wrong thing and a child goes home and tells their parents, then they're at fear of losing their job because they spoke about something that has to do with race or culture or gender identities. And so this is a really hot topic right now in the state of Texas, but it's also moving across the United States. People are trying to push this as a nationwide initiative. So we might see some of these changes in the next couple of years, but this one has been passed in the state of Texas. So if you were an educator in Texas, how would you feel about this ban? If you had children who were going to school, how would you feel? So there's a lot of discussion on the table. How do you think that this is going to affect those students in the next couple of years? Do you think it's going to affect students in a negative way?